welcome to another episode of Coaches and Coffee, sponsored by Southland Credit Union. Hope that you went and got your Polly's coffee this morning on 2nd Street. I've got my mug here. It's a good time. Mike will be happy to see y'all down there. Say hello and tell him go Beach. We've got Coach Jenny Hilt-Costello here, who is, as you all probably know, one of the most decorated coaches in Beach history. She's won lots of championships, and she's in charge of our tennis teams. And we're going to let Coach take it away here and give us her kind of state of the program address.
State of the program. Okay. Well, unfortunately, we did not get to finish this season. It was a bit of a bumpy start for us. I don't think that we were quite where we wanted to be in January, but certainly by the time season got called for us in March, I felt like we were definitely hitting our stride. And the girls were reaching their peak level and were starting to play the high level of tennis that they're capable of playing. And really, it for me started to mirror the 2019 season, which kind of was the same way. We had a lot of new players. We really had to continue to build the girls as we went through season. And by the time we got to Big West and won Big West and went to NCAAs, we were playing our best tennis, which is why we almost knocked off number 17 Cal when we were at the NCAA tournament. So I really felt like we were mirroring last season, where you were going to see our best tennis when we got to Big West. So I'm really sad that it didn't come to fruition for us to see season through and see how it would finish. But we were definitely headed in the right direction. And moving forward now, we're going to see some changes with the squad next year. We're going to have 3 new players joining our team. We've signed a young lady, very talented, from the Czech Republic. Her name is Nikola Homolkova, and very talented player, all court. You're going to see a lot of good things from her. We've signed a Russian player. Her name is Irina Babkova, a very talented player as well. Lots of success on the ITF tour as well. So, and then we've got ourselves a up-and-coming French player. Her name is Claire Ledoux. And she took some time off this year to focus a little bit more on her studies. But we did a lot of time watching her game, and if you watch her game and you see her results before she started focusing on school, you can see there's a real big upside to her. And getting her into our program with the quality players that we have and the coaching that we'll be able to give her, we're going to see, we expect her to be contending for the lineup as well.
Coach, can you tell us about, you had a senior on your team this year. Is she coming back? Do you expect to see her, or what are her plans moving forward?
Yep. Great question. And with Natalia, she has been a great player for us. I mean, there is nobody that goes on that court and fights harder than she does. She's working on her game plan. She figures it out. She is always there 100% from start to finish in her matches. And would have loved to have had her back for another year. But I think Natalia decided the best decision for her right now was she had a job lined up with Tennis for America through the ITA, working with the Sloan Stevens Foundation. And I think she was ready for that next chapter in her life. And we're sorry we're not going to have her back to compete for us, but I'm really happy for her that she secured this position, that she'll still be working in tennis, and I'm sure we'll see her a lot. But she is off to the next chapter in her life, which really is what we're supposed to do here. We're supposed to educate them, build them into leaders so that they're ready for that next stage. And she was ready, and she had the job lined up and wanted to pursue that.
That's exactly what we're here for at the Beach. So it's good to hear that she's got a successful plan and successful future ahead of her. Coach, one question that comes up a lot around the program is that you guys do a very good job of recruiting abroad and bringing in students from abroad. How do you see these girls? If you're not seeing them in person, how are you recruiting them? How are you able to bring them in and know that they're going to fit with your squad?
A lot of time sitting in front of the computer. That's what it involves. I mean, there's a lot of research involved with it in terms of looking up their universal tennis rating, looking up their ITF number, which is a world junior circuit that they have around the world where they can play tournaments. It's researching where have they finished basically nationally in their country. And then also videos. We ask them to send us videos of practice, of match plays, and often it's multiple videos. A lot of times they'll send us a video where we're not able to get quite a good enough feel based on the match that they played. For example, there are a lot of recruits that'll send us a match where they beat someone 6-0, 6-1. And that really does not help me get to know their game when they've basically annihilated their opponent. I'm more interested in seeing a match where they're challenged, where they may get beat in that match. How do they handle the situation where they're dealing with pressure, where they're dealing with adversity, where they're dealing with having to change their game plan? So I don't want to see you annihilate someone. I want to see how you handle those tough situations. So many times we have to ask them for a second or third video so that we can really get to know their game and how they handle those situations. So a lot of computer time and a lot of watching the videos at home. So it's not a pure science. I will tell you, we're not perfect at it, but it's been working pretty well for us.
I would say that's an understatement. That's been working pretty well. You guys have, 23 championships now? Is that what you guys are at?
We are actually, you gave us one extra. We're at 22 if you, 22 regular season and tournament titles combined, yeah.
I think I was counting the ones you were inevitably going to win.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
We've got Bruce McRae's got a question here, so we're going to unmute Bruce here and have him ask a question.
Coach, first thing, I've tried to play tennis. I enjoy watching it like I enjoy watching water polo because I can't swim. What a sport. When I look at all the heroes and all the people that have played for you over the decades, where have they gone from there? I mean, tell us some of the stories or maybe some of the athletes that have gone to greatness, or where are they now?
Okay. No, good question. God, there's been so many. I mean, now that I've just finished my 23rd season as the head coach, 25th season total. There's a lot out there. Just recently, I know Lindy had contacted us about players that are working on the front line. So, I will tell you in terms of that, we have one of our alum, Miranda Carvalho, is working as a sheriff right now in basically, I was going to say in the Torrance, kind of Dominguez Hills area there. And she's the stories that I hear from her and what she's dealing with and managing every day is quite incredible. And you got to think that a student athlete is more than prepared for situations like that. She's a competitor and a fighter, and so she's off doing great things there. We've got some people working in the medical field. Everybody is scattered doing different things. We have most of our internationals have returned home. Some have stayed here. Some are working like in sports management. Others are just working in general business. So it's kind of a mix.
Coach, you mentioned that a lot of your international students have gone home. Do we know kind of what the status is for bringing those students back to campus and what the plan is moving forward, or is it still too early in the summer for that?
Yeah, I feel like at this point it's a little too early. I know that our athletic director, Andy Fee, at this point has told us that we need to prepare and for the fact that we will be on campus and that we will be practicing. Whether we'll be competing or not will be a question, and our practices may look different. We may not have everybody together. We may have more individual practices moving forward. We may have limited hours based on what the NCAA says. Tennis, we're lucky that way. We are kind of a socially distanced sport anyways. We're on opposite ends of the court, and we're a smaller squad. So we may be able to return to more normal sooner than maybe some of the other sports, just because of the nature of our sport is already a little bit socially distanced. So for us, that's great. I can't wait to get back out on the courts. And honestly, the NCAA just approved as of June 1 voluntary workouts. Now that will also depend on when we open up campus. But for our couple players that are still here that did not go home, I know they're dying to get out and hit, and I'm dying to get out and have some individual hits with them. So the sooner we can make that happen, I think the happier we'll be. And in terms of the ones that are home and bringing them back, I think that remains to be seen. What are we going to be dealing with? Are there going to be plenty of flights available? Will they have to quarantine for 14 days once they come back, or will that be opened up? Will they even be allowed to leave their country? These are all questions that hopefully we'll have answers to as we move through June and get into early July.
Coach, can you walk us through what the end of the semester looked like for your students that went abroad in terms of their classes and their study, and when you guys were able to talk to them? I know a lot of folks have been interested in how they're getting their education online, and just how the end of the semester worked for your team.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the entire team. They adjusted really well to very different circumstances, moving everything online. So, and they adapted really well. As I was getting grade reports and as Ashley and I were checking in with all of them, they were handling everything well. They didn't seem to have any issues. They obviously took their books home with them so that they would have that there while they were at home. And many of them had to quarantine once they got home. And for example, Carlotta in Barcelona, she told me she basically couldn't leave their house for 51 days. She got back to Barcelona and was in the house. Only her mother was designated as the one person who could leave the house for essential things like shopping, any medicine that they needed to pick up. So to be honest with you, there wasn't much for them to do anyways. So we might as well bang out those great grades because it was limited what they could do in their house in terms of exercises and staying, fit. So I said, why don't we, funnel those competitive juices and let's see if we can't get the best team GPA we've ever had. We generally get a team GPA anywhere in the 3.2 to 3.4 range. So our goal was to bump that up and see if we couldn't get a team GPA of 3.5 or 3.6.
How did you finish, Coach?
Don't know yet. The grades aren't final, so it's fingers crossed. Hopefully we hit the mark.
All right. Coach, one thing that's unique about your sport is that there's other coaches that are coaching one game, one match at a time. You're coaching 6 matches at a time. How do you guys handle everything that's going on? I mean, I've been out to your tennis matches. There's games in front of you, games behind you, games off to the right. How do you guys handle being able to get to everyone when they need you and being able to coach them through their match?
Yeah, a lot of walking. It's interesting, One day we had a match where it rained beforehand, so we had to do squeegeeing, and then we had kind of a longer than normal match, and I had my phone on mute in my pocket because it tracks how many steps and how many miles I take. That night I got home and I had 21 miles that I had walked that day between squeegeeing the courts and coaching a very long match and moving around. So a lot of walking, and I think it is something you learn to manage. As a first-time coach, when I came in as an assistant, it was definitely a little overwhelming. And generally, you split the matches. So I'll take 3, and my assistant will take 3. When we have Carolina, our volunteer there, then we each take 2 and 2, which makes life a whole lot easier. But generally speaking, we're working 3 singles matches at a time. And really, it's about kind of prioritizing and working your way through. Once one match, you feel like they've got the game plan and they've settled into the match, then you can start maybe putting out fires somewhere else where someone's in trouble and they need some help. But once you get into probably the first 3/4 of a set, you have a general idea how the match is flowing and when you can leave that player and when you maybe need to come back and check in on them. So it really is just kind of, you get to know the flow as the match goes. And there are times too when players are they've got it handled and they've got it handled. And all you need to come back and check in on is water, if they need an apple or an orange or a banana or something like that. And then you can take care of maybe a match where they're struggling and they need a little bit more support from you. They need a few more ideas about the game plan from you. So there's a lot of ebbs and flows and a lot of momentum changes within a tennis match, and you just kind of work with it and go where you need to put out the fires and trust those players who have it handled.
Coach, we got a question here from Phil, and just give me 1 second here to unmute him. Phil, can you hear us?
You can hear me okay?
Yep, we got you.
Okay. Hey, good morning, everybody. And sorry my video
morning,
isn't
Phil.
working, but I'm smiling. The opportunity to talk to you today. Hey, so my question is, how do you decide which double players to pair? Like, how do you work out the best configuration of who plays doubles and who rests, and which players complement each other at the 1, 2, and 3 positions?
Good question. And you sort of already answered it, because which players complement each other is a very big factor in selecting who plays doubles together, who complements each other well, which players have chemistry together, and chemistry isn't necessarily they like each other or they dislike each other. We're talking about on-court chemistry. And you can have 2 players that are best friends off the court, but you could put them on the court together and they don't have that tennis doubles chemistry where it's clicking and it's working. So really, you want to have players, usually you want to have someone who is really solid, consistent, and then you want somebody who then can put the shots away, the counter punchers. So the setup man and then the put away man. And there's often times where they can do both. But if you're looking for a combo, it's a setup man, a closing man, and then you need how well do they work together? Do they have the chemistry together on the court? Because players that have that chemistry, they start really reading each other. They know how they're going to react to certain shots. If they pound in that serve and they see they've jammed the returner, your partner's moving. So really developing that chemistry and complementing, as you said, Phil, complementing each other out on the court.
Okay. Hey, so it seems like, doubles requires the players coming to the net, and today's singles mentality usually isn't as oriented as that way as it used to be in the past. So is it something where you specifically work on getting them comfortable to, control the net? Because still today, I think it's, the best doubles teams in the world control the net.
Yeah, I agree. Coming forward, we always tell the girls, you're going to win doubles by being aggressive and taking over the net. Players that get to the net, and I'm going to use a word that my assistant Ashley brought to the program. It's smother. If you can get to the net and smother your opponent at the net, you put so much pressure on them. You'll either get an unforced error or you'll get that opportunity ball, the floating ball, the overhead, the put away shot. So we definitely focus on that in practice a lot. Drills where we'll say you have 2 shots to get to the net, or drills where we say in doubles you only win the point if you finish at the net. If somebody puts away a shot at the net, things like that to kind of force that momentum forward. Now, having said that, it still is something that they have to feel confident and comfortable doing in matches. And sometimes when it's a tight situation, those nerves kick in. So it's not a perfect science, but it's definitely something we focus on. It's something that we tell them we would rather see them playing aggressive, coming forward, and possibly making a few more mistakes at the net, being aggressive, because that's the game that's going to build them to be a better doubles player rather than just hanging out at the baseline. So sometimes when you're getting that comfort level of coming forward, you're going to have to sacrifice and make a few more mistakes in order to take those 5 steps forward. So it's that old adage, 2 steps back to take 5 steps forward. So yeah, Phil, for sure. The doubles game is at the net, and the team that's at the net and dominant at the net usually wins. The other side of doubles too that we've really come to realize, getting the point started. You can't give a lot of double faults in doubles, and you cannot give them a lot of missed returns. It really is about starting strong, a big serve, a solid low dipping return. If we give too many unforced errors and we don't get the point started, that puts you into a hole in each of the games, and it's hard to dig itself out.
Great answer. Thank you.
Coach, switching gears a little bit, can you, you told us about the recruits that you were bringing in a little bit. You gave us some of their names and whatnot. Can you get a little bit more in depth with those girls and what they're going to bring to your team and what you expect and what you saw in them in the video that they sent you?
Yeah, you know, honestly, there's a real common denominator that we look for in recruits, and that really revolves around how comfortable are they inside the baseline. Coming inside the baseline, which means you're playing an offensive style game and you are willing and not afraid to close points at the net. And I would say all three of these young ladies have that ability and comfort level inside the baseline. I think if we're talking specifically with Arina from Russia, she is a lefty and she's got a big serve and a really solid backhand. And again, that ability to play inside the baseline, which puts so much pressure on your opponent. Nicola, she really has an all-court game as well. She has everything. I've seen her with drop shots. I've seen her with power shots. She can finish at the net. So she really has the complete game, which we're looking forward, obviously, to working with all of them, but building those tools that they already have. And Claire is quick. She is fast around the court. She covers the court really well. Her footwork, she's got a lot of speed. And again, when she has that opportunity, that short ball opportunity, she's inside the baseline, taking advantage of it, no fear coming to the net. So I think you're going to see a lot of aggressive tennis out of these three recruits, which is really fun to watch. Oh,
My
can't
apologies.
hear you. Oh, there you go.
My apologies. I muted myself there for got a question here. You guys are bringing in recruits from all different cultures, and tennis is a lot of an individual game, but whenever we see you guys out there at the Terry Rhodes Tennis Center, you guys are definitely a team. So how are you able to pull everyone together as a team with these girls from all over the world with different cultures? How are you able to do that?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because having such an international team, they do have something in common when they show up here. They are all a long way from home. They are a long way from home. They've traveled a long distance to get here. So they already have that in common, which I think bonds them. They have tennis in common, which bonds them. And I think for all of them, playing junior tennis is very cutthroat. It is a very individual sport. So I think as we're recruiting these players, we are looking for those individuals who want to become part of a team situation. So they are craving that team environment when they get here as well. And so it kind of takes off from there. And then as a team, we always at the beginning of the season come up with our team identity, which I really think also brings together the team in terms of their common goal and their purpose together as we move through season. And a team identity, again, this is something that my assistant helped bring to the table and really kind of, I guess I would say, define it a little bit more, so we got a little more specific about it. It really is only 2 or 3 things that they say as a team that they want to be known for that season. For example, they may want to be known, like, as a team plays us and leaves the facility, we want them to think, wow, that team fought for every point, or wow, that team is so conditioned and in such great shape, they were battling the whole way, or it could be they had such team spirit. Everything we heard around the court was, here we go beach, and they were just so positive the whole way through the match. It made it tough, to play and to play them. So that's really a team identity. We try to establish that at the beginning of the year. And then now we've also been working on, we have a catchphrase at the courts, and it's here we go beach. And my former assistant, Hallie Cohen, hi Hallie, I think you're on the call with us if you still are. She and I came up with this when we were at Big West one year. They changed the venue for us, and we couldn't see what was going on the other courts. So we decided to start yelling, here we go beach, every time one of the girls took a set. so that we knew, okay, I heard Hallie on court 4. We took the first set on court 4. All right, she heard Jenny on court 1. We have the first set there. So, and now 20 plus years later, it has turned into kind of our rally cry. And when the girls win their match, they yell, "Here we go, Beach," as they walk forward to shake hands with the opponent. So we also asked the girls to define for us at the beginning of the season, what does "Here we go" mean? "Here we go, Beach" mean for you? And for example, things that they've come up with is, never give up, family, this is our time. Those are the kind of things that they've come up with to define what "Here we go, Beach" is. So every time they yell that out, that has meaning for them as an individual, but it has meaning for the entire team as well. And any of our boosters that have been at the match know when you hear "Here we go, Beach," it's a shot of adrenaline through the entire facility. It pumps everybody up and gets everybody going. So that's kind of a long answer to the question, but I think a lot of things come into play to building that team environment and that culture.
Great. That's that's awesome. And it is always good to see you guys out there getting excited and such a team atmosphere that you guys put out on the court.
Hey, Coach.
Whoop.
Am I blocked?
You're on. You're on.
Hey, Coach, I gotta get on another call with the governor, believe it or not. But I am so impressed. I have never heard you really talk. I've known you for I don't know how long, but just your enthusiasm and your drive and your commitment. I have goosebumps right now listening to you talk, and I mean that from my heart. Real impressive, Coach. Real impressive. And if I get a big enough hat, I'm coming out to watch one of the matches. I promise you that. So
good. Well, thank you. Thank you, Bruce. That means a lot. Thank you so much.
You bet. Take care.
All right. Coach, quick question here that we had come in. How do you think the pandemic's going to affect your recruiting for next season and beyond?
That's a good question. It really, at this point, we're having conversations with our current players on those who want that additional year. And, honestly, I'm going to say it's not for everybody. And that's not a bad thing. For example, like I said, Natalia made the best decision for her moving on to the next chapter in her career. And we really want players to stay because they want to continue on with their degree, continue on maybe with a higher degree, master's, and that tennis is really still that passion for them. If after 4 years they feel like, I'm done, I don't have any more in the tank, that's fine. There's nothing to be ashamed of, and that's why I feel it's important to say, because the 5th year is there doesn't mean it's the right decision for everyone. So we're currently talking with our girls to see who really want that 5th year and those who are ready to move on to the next chapter. So those conversations will determine where we fall out in terms of how many players we're going to need for the next season. Having said that, we're already talking to a number of players for fall 2021. So I feel very confident that we've got some good players lined up for those positions that will potentially open up. So I don't think it's going to have a huge impact for us moving forward. Honestly, by 2021, obviously we're all hoping by then that we're really back to more normal. So I think 21 is looking good for us right now.
Coach, who are the teams to beat going forward next year? Besides the Beach, who's going to add number 23, who's out there that's looking for you guys and has a big target on you?
Again, that's a tough question for me to answer right now because I don't know right now what the rosters look like for the other schools. Which schools have seniors that have opted into that 5th year, because that can be a huge advantage. If you have, for example, you have 2 seniors on your team, and for those who aren't quite as familiar with tennis, we're allowed to have 8 players on scholarship. That's our max number that we're allowed to have on ride. So if you have 2 seniors that are graduating and you sign 2 players, but those 2 seniors have decided to come back, the NCAA has allowed you now to have that increased number of players on your roster. which is a distinct advantage. When you've got 10 scholarship athletes on your team, that gives you a lot of depth. And when you have those seniors returning, that's a lot of experience that is coming back to your lineup to play for another season. So really, I'm sorry to give you a non-answer on this, Camden, but it's really going to depend on once those rosters come out and we see how many of those seniors are staying, how many have left, and who they've filled those potential positions with. I think obviously, you know, Santa Barbara has always been tough for us the last few years. That program has, in the last 8 years, really improved. So they'll, I definitely think, be there. Cal Poly is much improved with Katarina taking over that program. She's doing a lot of good things over there. Fullerton has improved with Diane. And obviously, I think Hawaii is going to be in the mix as well. So the conference, you know, and with some coaching changes that have happened the last, you know, 5, 7, 8 years, a lot of the programs are very close. So it'll be interesting. And I think once I know the rosters, I'll have a better idea for you who we're going to be gunning for.
All right. Well, we'll definitely get you back on here once we get those rosters. We got to find out the scoop on who we're going to take down for number 20. So to add to that question, you were talking about Santa Barbara and their environment. Phil Jones wrote in. He wanted to know more about that environment at Santa Barbara and how their men's team plays into that home court advantage that they've been able to produce up there.
Well, I'll have to keep this PG when I talk about their environment over there, because it at times has gotten unacceptable, in my opinion, the way they berate our young women. It borders on, in my opinion, it borders on sexual harassment at times. So that is really, it has come out much more within the ITA, the Intercollegiate Tennis Association, because it doesn't just happen there. It happens quite a bit at other schools as well, especially those schools in the South. I hear that they can be pretty wild playing those matches. So they've clamped down on it a bit, so I think we're going to see improvements on that front. And honestly, cheering for your team and being loud and being excited, enthusiastic is wonderful, and you should do that. But it should be directed in terms of positive towards your team. That's my only issue, is when they're interrupting our girls between their first and second serve, they're berating them, things like that. That's where I think it crosses the line. But we saw an improvement the last time we were there, and I think enthusiastic cheering is wonderful, and I hope it continues. That makes the college tennis environment. There should be a lot of cheering going on. But hopefully, as we move forward, the negative aspect of that in tennis, which really was bad there for a few years, you know, back 3-4 years ago, it seems to have been curtailed because the ITA has really clamped down on it to make sure that we're not making these young women feel uncomfortable out on the court, that they can go out, compete hard in an excited, enthusiastic environment. So I think, Phil, we'll see some changes there the next time we play them.
Coach, we talked about this a little bit in an interview I did with you before, but being able to play at Indian Wells and at that amazing facility during the Big West Championship, what does that do for you guys in terms of recruiting? And to add to that question, a second one, how have you guys made it such a positive environment, a home court almost for your team? We went over your record there. You guys have a mind-blowing record out there. I can't remember the specific numbers, but something that is pretty incredible, that you've only lost a handful of matches at Indian Wells. Can you talk about that environment and how you guys have been able to make it a home court?
Yeah, I don't know how any coach can't make this a recruiting tool for them and you know, an incredible experience. We are playing our conference championships in one of the top 5 facilities in the world. Our international players know about this facility because there's the ATP and WTA event there every March, and they know of this. It is that one's widely considered, you know, the 5th major. That and Miami are kind of the 5th and the 6th major. So it is one of the best facilities in the world, and we get to play our conference championship there. It is so far more special to play there than to alternate at campuses, which many conferences do. I mean, you play at everybody's campus during the course of the season. Who wants to go back to another campus? If we really want a championship experience, there's no better than going to the Indian Wells Tennis Garden. So getting the girls excited and amped up to play in the desert, really, as a coach, I'm not going to take credit for that. That it comes from just driving down to the desert and entering the facility. I mean, if you can't get amped up for that, then you really need to wonder whether you should be playing tennis anymore. So that really has been easy to do, to get them fired up for the desert. And I just think it is the work that we do from September to April that really helps the girls then to be prepared. And that's our job as coaches. Our job is to prepare them, to train them in a way that their game continually improves, and that we can then put them in positions to be successful. That is put them in a position to be successful. And last year, there were so many of those opportunities as we worked through the Big West tournament, and they were ready and they were prepared and they stepped over the line and they took it. And that really is our goal, is putting them in that position where they're prepared and ready to take advantage of those situations to be successful. So it doesn't take a lot of work to get them amped up for the desert. And then really what makes them prepared is every step, every practice from September to April before we get there.
Coach, you guys are, how are you preparing right now? So tennis is obviously a sport where you need to be in incredible shape. You know, they're not, your student athletes may or may not, depending on where they're from, be able to get out of their homes and practice on a court. How are they staying in shape? How are they working on their game right now during the pandemic? And how are you keeping everyone engaged so that when they are able to come back here, they're ready to go?
Great question. And, you know, with the pandemic, it's something that we've never dealt with, you know, before. Most of us have not dealt with this. And for these young ladies, I mean, this was something that was a little bit scary. They, you know, getting home to their folks, being safe. So for us, really, the tack that I took finishing out the semester was, I didn't want to pile too much on them. They're dealing with a lot to begin with this pandemic and how life just dramatically changed from one day to the next. March 11th, you know, or I think it was March 10th, we played a match against Memphis and beat them in a knockdown drag-out match. 2 days later, season's canceled. We've got the pandemic. We're going to be isolated. So basically our feeling was, as coaches, let them get home and let's finish out the semester really strong on the academic side. Let's make sure that they're dealing with themselves, their families, and let's just take care of academics first. And let's make sure we have a successful semester in the classroom. Now that we have finished with the semester, I'm going to give them a little bit of a break now that they don't have to look at their computer and stare at their books all day. So basically, I think the second week in January is when we're going to gear back up to start talking with them about their physical conditioning and what the situation is in each of their countries with access to tennis courts. And then we'll start working through game plans for the summer so that they can come back prepared and ready for the workouts that we're going to have for them. So really, honestly, for us, there wasn't a lot of extra work in terms of reading books and doing some other, you know, team motivational things. Wanted them to purely focus on academics, themselves and their family for those first few months. Now that school's out, we'll gear back up and start focusing a little bit more on the tennis and how we prepare for the fall semester.
All right. Coach, we're starting to wind down here, so I wanted to give you a chance to say anything that you want to wrap it up and talk to Beach Nation here. So the floor is yours.
Honestly, I just want to thank everybody for joining us. I see Hallie over there, and I see Lance and Mary. I'm going to miss Baxter, thank you. And Barbara, thank you guys for coming. And everybody else that I've missed, Phil, thank you guys for coming and joining today to talk about tennis. It means a lot. And I know you guys all care a lot about Long Beach State athletics. So Thank you. Thank you for still being here, staying with us during this crazy time. We can't wait to see all of you once we get back on campus, hopefully sooner than later. So hope to see everybody really soon.
All right, Coach, thanks for joining us, and thank you all for being here. We'll see you next Monday on Coaches and Coffee. Please let us know if you have any questions. Give us a call at the Beach Athletic Fund, 562-985-4949. The drive to 4,900 continues, and we will see you all next week. Have a good week and go Beach.